I think most of you know me, but in case you don't, my name is Richard Janzen. I'm a vestry member here at St. Mark's and the organizer of our Creation Care Working Group. And my wife will assure you that I use the word organizer in the very loosest sense of the word. Pastor Rob invited me here to speak tonight about how one can do a carbon fast for Lent. That is, to undertake an environmentally friendly initiative or resolution for Lent. And I will cover that. But more importantly, and with your indulgence, I'd like to discuss why I think carbon fast for Lent is important. My family's been coming to St. Mark's for 3 years now, after moving here from Calgary, where I attended a Lutheran church. That is basically the German cousins of the Anglicans. But that isn't the origin of my religious thinking. I was actually raised Mennonite, which is an Anabaptist tradition, with roots in the Netherlands, Germany, and Austria. The reason I mention this is because my religious tradition does not have a liturgical service, which means that the church seasons that are common in mainline churches, Anglican, Catholic, Lutheran, were not part of my liturgical landscape growing up. We do not practice Lent. It just wasn't a thing we did. So when I started attending a Lutheran church with my wife, the idea of doing a fast for Lent was interesting. That was basically all I knew about Lent at that time. You gave up stuff you liked until Easter. But each Lenten season since then, I've learned a little bit more about the theological underpinnings of Lent. It's not just about giving up enjoyable things. It's more about giving up things that we somehow perceive are not good for us, or that we would probably be better off without. It took me a while to understand that. So while I might give up wine for Lent, that is something that is fairly common. And despite the fact that I really enjoy showering, I don't think anyone would want me to have a shower fast for Lent. So there's kind of the distinction. Wine in excess is bad for us, and that is what we focus on for a fast, because it is perceived as improving ourselves. It's not just a matter of giving up pleasurable things, it's a matter of fixing and improving. And this Lent, that's what I am focusing on. What I'm focusing on is fixing my relationship with creation. I'll come back to this idea of fixing in a moment. Before pursuing it, I'd like to give you a little bit more of a background on where I'm coming from in regards to the environment and environmental activism. About a year and a half ago, I had a bit of a personal crisis about humanity and man-made climate change. Calling it a meltdown would probably be going too far, but not by much. I was extremely concerned about what climate change would mean for my children and for children around the world. I first thought about these topics when they started coming up regularly in the early 1990s with the signing of the Kyoto Protocol. I thought at the time that it was a good idea. Yes, let's do that, and then promptly forgot all about it. But about 18 months ago, I realized we were coming up to the times that had been discussed in the protocol, and by which time major changes were supposed to have happened. But meanwhile, I looked around and saw that nothing had changed, and if anything, even more fossil fuels were being burned. And when one is in such a state of mind, it is easy to find writings that are fairly apocalyptic in nature, and which may or may not be correct. Suffice it to say, I'm in a much better frame of mind today, but I remain deeply concerned with climate change and the effects people are having on the planet. Another thing, I will freely admit that I'm not a scientist and cannot discuss the intricate details of the various effects that increased greenhouse gases are having on the planet. I realize there's still some debate on the extent of it and what the effects will ultimately be, but I do understand the broad theory behind it, and it makes sense to me. As an analogy, as I'm not a scientist, I'm also not a doctor, but if 97% of doctors agreed on a treatment for a looming major illness, I would believe those 97% and not the 3% who say it'll be fine if I don't change anything. And that's about as preachy as I'm going to get on the topic of climate change. So, having discussed these concerns regularly with Rob, he knew of my passion for the topic and suggested a Creation Care Working Group, which we now have. And feel free to join us if you are interested. So we had a group about what were we going to do. We all had ideas, and some of those are coming into effect, but Rob suggested that we present the idea of a carbon fast for Lent. So I did some research, and gave a couple of talks after services on what this would mean and what we could do to make this happen in our own lives. And now, how does environmental activism relate to a Lenten fast? As I mentioned earlier, each year I look at Lent with a fresh set of eyes. Priests love me. This year, based on Reverend Robert's first Lenten sermon, I've been exploring Lent in terms of our relationship with brokenness and our need for repair and for fixing. The first Old Testament reading of Lent, which was read now by Father Mark, captures the brokenness that I'd like to discuss here tonight, which was the eating of the forbidden fruit. This action represents the breaking of our relationship with God. There's also a breakdown of our relationships with each other and with nature. And it all started with the expulsion of Adam and Eve from the Garden of Eden. Now, I don't have any deep theological insights into the fall. Whole forests have been cut down to print the books that have been discussing this topic, so I'm not going to pretend to add my voice to that chorus. But what I do notice in this story is the dysfunctionality and the childishness of the fall. When confronted by God, Adam says, "Not my fault," and points to Eve. And she in turn says, "Not my fault," and points to the serpent. Sorry, I didn't mean to catch you in that. These are not examples of familial unity. There is a separation between each of the humans and between the humans and a creature. Broken relationships all around. And that brokenness remains today. In terms of our relations with the creatures and ecosystems, I think most of us would acknowledge that there is room for improvement. Just look at what we consume, me included. I'm not judging anyone else here. How much of what we have in our homes would we be willing to throw out into our own backyards? How much of that stuff would decompose and go back to nature in, say, a 5-year window? That's my new yardstick for environmental friendliness. If I wouldn't want it languishing in my own space, who am I to throw it elsewhere and make it someone else's problem? And these broken relationships, evidenced in the fall between the people, continue to divide us, perhaps especially in relation to discussions around the environment and climate change. How many of us are comfortable opening a discussion on this topic with a stranger? How many of us would discuss it, even with a friend? I'm deeply concerned about this subject, but I have a lifelong friend who holds differing views on a lot of things, and I have to steel myself to muster the courage to open the topic with him. And this is someone I went fishing with as a kid. How messed up is that? But you know what? When I do, I find we have more in common than we have separating us. We don't agree on everything. Heck, even my wife and I don't agree on everything, let's be honest. But when we put aside our anger, our defensiveness, our self-righteousness, when we're able to get past all of that and genuinely listen to each other, we actually share many of the same concerns. Once we start talking, we discover we actually agree more than we disagree. We just use different language to express our viewpoints. I read an article on the CBC website a while ago talking about the emotional reactions to the idea of a carbon tax. The fellow being interviewed was part of a polling firm who had worked with both the anti and the pro-climate change groups. And when he went home at Christmas, he was quite surprised at the passion the topic aroused among his own family and friends. He noted that everyone got worked up but didn't often know what the other side actually stood for. The most recent poll from this firm discovered that it was hard to tell if people were opposed to a carbon tax because they didn't believe in climate change, or if they didn't believe in climate change because they were opposed to a carbon tax. And that's not to judge these people, because we're all so busy listening to like-minded people that it's often easy to lose our own perspective. So what was this fellow's advice, this man who polled people and talked to people all over the country on this topic? He said, if you're trying to bridge the divide when speaking to people with an opposing point of view, listening is really, really important. He goes on to say, you should go into a conversation with the assumption that you have something to learn. Even though someone may disagree with you, try giving them the benefit of the doubt. I think that's a good lesson in humility we could all follow. And do I have all the answers? No way. Is a carbon tax a good thing? Maybe. It seems to make sense to me, but I'm not omnipotent. I don't know how the ripple effects might pan out. In terms of how to carry out a carbon fast, do I know what you should do? No, not really. I don't know you or your concerns and passions. I can only tell you what's worked for me. I would recommend that you find something, start with one thing, and work to make changes in that sphere. For example, one of my main concerns is population growth. There are a lot of people on our planet, and I think we'd be better off with fewer. So I donate my environmental money to programs that focus on educating girls. The more educated women are, the more empowered they are, and the smaller the families are. So I'm supporting human rights and trying to set the world on a path to a smaller population. What else do? I compost. I drive as little as possible. I'm currently down to less than 250 kilometers a week. The next vehicle will be electric or hybrid. I test drove an electric car the other day, and it was actually quite a lot of fun to drive. And it has a range of about 100 kilometers, and I almost never go more than that in a day anyway, so it's something worth considering. I try to buy less. What I do buy, I try to get local and in season. Strawberries in January are delicious, but probably not local and certainly not sustainable. It says in Genesis 1:28 that we humans were given dominion over creation. Another word I've heard applied to that passage is we are given responsibility for creation. I am responsible for my children, and I do everything in my power to ensure their physical and emotional well-being. That is what good caregivers do. We don't always succeed, but we try. And just as God has dominion over us and is loving and encouraging, so we must try to be loving and encouraging to creation. That is part of our dominion, and we were created in the image of God. Even if we are appointed as rulers of this planet, rulers must also care for their charges. Just as we expect God to care for us, we must care for those around us. The Garden of Eden can be metaphorically equated to all of nature and creation. We were given charge over Eden. For example, Adam named all the animals, which indicates an intimacy with creation that I believe we have lost since the fall. Now, if we see a bear in the woods, we run. We don't hang around and name it. And although as part of God's punishment, Adam was made to work to extract a living from the soil, God never told Adam to stop caring for it. We were God's sixth day project, but that does not separate us from the previous 5 days of his work. We would not exist but for the rest of creation. And we would not exist as human beings without each other. Our sociability, our connectedness is very much a part of our humanity. But in this realm too, we need a lot of work. If we look at the political world around us, we can't help but notice the polarization. It is no longer somehow enough to debate with someone. Now it seems necessary to demean and belittle them. Deny them their humanity because you don't need to listen to someone who has been deemed subhuman. But Jesus didn't tell us to love the neighbors who agreed with us. We're supposed to love everybody. We are created in God's image, for better or for worse. And yes, it is easier only to listen to viewpoints that support our own. Much easier. But that is part of the brokenness of our world today. So if we want to fix our relationships with those around us, both in the human and in the natural world, we must first identify the brokenness and then work to overcome it. And that work primarily involves listening. For me, that is what this Lent is about. Listening to opposing viewpoints and acknowledging their validity. And then making sure our own viewpoints are understood, because we too are precious and part of creation. Talking about the environment respectfully and responsibly. Using whatever power we have in our own small sphere of influence for good, to be a force for forgiveness, a force for fixing. We live in a broken world, but God has called us to be his fixers.